I spent years trying to capture cool visuals, put it to an interesting song, maybe I'll throw in some transitions, but at the end of the day, it made me just another videographer. It wasn't until I started heavily prioritizing story above all else that both my career and my craft began to change. I've been lucky enough to work with some of the biggest creators on the internet, and I promise you it is not because of the visuals or the music or the transitions I use. I do strongly believe there is a difference between editing like a videographer and a filmmaker. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the first 6 steps I use to build out any edit, whether a short video like this one or a feature-length film, so that hopefully you can start editing like a filmmaker too. So I'm about to edit this mini documentary. We shot this in an hour. You can go watch that video of us shooting this if you'd like. And I'm going to do something that I've never done, which is walk you and talk you through the edit while I edit. Basically, how do I take this big pool of footage that might not make much sense and hopefully condense it into something that feels like a real film. And at the end of this video, I will show you the finished product. I will show you the edited mini doc. So no pressure here. Let's jump right into it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is just sort my ingredients, see what I'm working with. So it's a short project. I just have 2 buckets for this one. I have dialogue and I have B-roll, nice and simple. Yes, I edit in Final Cut, okay? All right. The next and the first real step of editing is I'm going to begin my initial dialogue scrub. For this project, we have a key interview and we have a couple verite sound bites. So I will be going through all the bits of dialogue. I'm going to lay all that out in my dialogue bucket. I'm actually going to duplicate this bucket. Let's call it cut 1. And so I know this is just my first broad cut. So I'm just looking for anything that might be usable here. I'm not being too ruthless with my cutting. I am trimming away all the fat that I know I won't need. By the end of this, I just want to see, okay, what am I actually working with? First pass on dialogue done. I went from like a 20-minute chunk of dialogue. We got it down to about 3 minutes, but this is a great starting point for me. It helps me understand what we're working with. Next thing I'm going to do is actually just refine that dialogue even further. I'm going to now duplicate this project again, and I'm going to call this dialogue cut 2. I like to duplicate my projects. I'm sure other editing softwares or editors have more efficient ways to do this, but this is my very dumb monkey way of creating redundancy. I always want to make sure I'm editing with the ability to go back. I want to feel very free and loose when I'm editing. I don't want to feel like if, oh, I cut something out that now I think I should use. I want to be able to go easily find that. So by continuing creating like new projects, I'm able to kind of sequentially see where I am in the build process. So my intentions with cut 2 is I'm going to take now this 3 minutes of dialogue and I want to refine this even deeper. Can I get this a little bit closer to the 2-minute mark? How much can I tighten some of these sound bites up? So again, kind of in the boring phase, just chopping away at marble. This second pass of dialogue, I am allowing the storyteller to kind of come back online and be like, okay, like how do we now feel about this dialogue? Where could this dialogue go? And again, I'm not doing anything with that yet, but I am starting to look at this dialogue with a different lens. Okay, next round of edits done. I actually got this down to 1:45, so happy with that. I was ruthless. And another thing I've done is I have now added a text over kind of a pool of clips. This title kind of shows me what this chunk of stuff is about. So here we have Graham talking about how his life improves when he makes music. And so that's like a theme right there. Basically what I've done is add little labels to each chunk. So I kind of know what I'm working with. And this is going to help me set up for the next stage. So we're moving on to the next part of the edit, which is building a rough skeleton with the dialogue. I am now taking these select dialogue clips and I am trying to build these into a skeleton in a way that makes sense to me. So I'm putting on my narrative thinking cap and I am now starting to think, okay, how can I form these? What order can I place these sound bites in a way that tells a narrative that I'm happy with? Now let's talk about narrative structures for a second. I like to try to follow a simple 3-act framework: setup, conflict, resolution. With a mini doc like this, I am very limited in how much footage I have. Again, we shot this in an hour. This piece is only going to be like 90 seconds maybe. There's not going to be like a perfect setup. There's not going to be a perfect conflict. There's not going to be a perfect resolution, but I can do that with a sense of feeling. I can do that with a sense of pacing. I can set the piece up. I can kind of bring you into a world. I can set up a sense of conflict. Conflict can be something that someone's aspiring to, something someone's literally struggling with, something someone's wrestling with internally, and then the resolution. Now, resolution doesn't have to be the story's over, the story's wrapped up perfectly. It's also just this sense of how do I want to leave the viewer in this edit? How do I want to resolve this edit literally. So again, that can be very non-literal, that can be very feeling and emotive based, that can be very musical. Getting a little bit abstract here, we'll get back into the weeds here. This next step, I'm going to take all the dialogue that I have now cut and I'm putting my narrative cap on. What I'm doing here is I am now rearranging the pieces and I am trying to create my first form. I am trying to create the skeleton and I'm trying to create the first flow. Like, how might this flow? I'm taking my first pass at this. These first few steps of the edit, I see this as like being an author, a writer. Like I don't even feel like a video editor yet. I don't feel like I get to play and add sounds and textures and visuals. It's like I'm putting myself in the frame of a writer and I am trying to write kind of a structure that makes sense to me and that seems interesting to me. I will often spend days on a bigger project in just these steps, cutting dialogue, refining dialogue, and now this step, reimagining where that dialogue will go. And once this spine is built, I find that the editing process becomes so free and loose and fun, because then I'm just like, okay, how can I make this cooler and fun and more engaging? But until this spine is there, I know there's no story, there's no substance. So I spend so much time here when I can with bigger projects. I think this part can also be very overwhelming for an editor. I know I have felt that, where I'm staring at like a narrative structure and flow and I'm like, I know I want to get this right, but I just don't know where things will go. Sometimes for me, taking pressure off and just calling it play, like I'm just going to start moving things around and see how it feels and see how it flows. And trying to lower the stakes a little bit helps me. I think we do our best work when we're in a mindset of play. So though this is a very critical step, I try to infuse the energy of play into it. Okay. Skeleton draft is built. With longer projects, I might do this over and over, just like I did with the dialogue. I might just keep refining and refining and refining. I might spend 2 to 3 hours doing all this, take a break, come back to it. I often find that baking in some space as an editor is really nice, to be able to take some space away from the project, come back with fresh eyes, see how I feel, do another revision. But for the sake of the video, I'm just going to move forward. So we are moving on to the next step, which is the first actual build 1. I am taking my dialogue in this skeleton and I am now adding music and sounds and score. This is just how I edit. I don't think everybody edits this way, but I am basically treating this as a song. How do I want this to flow now with music and score? I am creating a real sense of pacing now. Okay, so I just added some music, I added some score, I added some field recordings, I added some sound effects and transitions. I feel like I've built a sense of like rise and fall. There's some silence, there's some music. All of this is in place before I have even put on one piece of B-roll. There is no visuals on this timeline. This timeline is just dialogue and music and some titles. That for me is editing like a filmmaker and not a videographer. That for me is prioritizing above all else story and structure and feeling beyond visuals. Now the visuals get to do their job. It's an important job. The visuals have a very important job. I have so much respect to cinematographers. I don't pride myself on being the best cinematographer, but it is this skill, building and refining story structure, that I feel like allows me to work with the clients I get to work with. And it is, in my opinion, the skill that is a little bit more rare nowadays. There are countless videographers with really good gear, and gear is only getting better. And the ability to capture beautiful images is only getting easier. The more time I can spend in this skill of refinement of story, the more I feel like I am building a craft and skill set that is rare. And that feels good. All right, the final stage is adding our visuals and doing a little bit of polish. I could have easily spent another long while discussing this step here, but I think this is the step that most videographers kind of already understand, that adding the visuals and making it fun and exciting is something that comes really easy because it's the funnest step. I wanted to spend more time in this video talking about the unsexy step, building and refining a structure that makes sense to me, that can hold whatever visuals and sound effects and exciting things I throw on top of it. Without that structure underneath it, it will kind of just be this empty vessel that won't make the impact that we hope it will. At least that's my opinion. So for this final step, I took a few hours, I threw the visuals on, I had fun with it, I was experimenting. I tried to find some other sources of footage actually that I didn't shoot in that single 1 hour documentary shoot. I do like to try to add some variety and some novelty into my edits wherever possible, and I'm relatively happy with it. I'm going to to play this mini doc for you now. After this video is done, feel free to go watch the video I made showing how we shot this mini doc in an hour, and consider subscribing for more. It's great to have you. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to show you this mini doc. Be gentle with me. I made this in real time with you. I was talking to you the whole time. I was very distracted. The classic artist feeling like shy and insecure before they show their work. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play this mini doc in 3, 2, 1.
I definitely, like, my life improves if I'm making music. It's like a grounding practice for me, and I just like forget that. It just reminds me like what's important in my life. My values and everything else kind of feel like they're clear to me. And that's why I like deliberately practice the piano. So today, I don't really have a plan necessarily, but I have a Logic project open. I have some field recordings. So I'm going to start with a sound that I recorded at a river in Montana, and I'm just going to let that play. And then I'm going to sit at the piano here, and I'm just going to see what comes through. That's not it. It really is just like a feeling. It almost is similar to when you have a moment of revelation or like an aha moment. A lot of things that you've been musing on or thinking about like kind of all click together into one cohesive thing, and you're like, oh my God. I think the fact that I deliberately regulate my nervous system with practices helps me attune to that feeling of yes, and even more importantly, the feeling of that's not it. Sounds like a little tiny little waterfall. This feels different from a lot of the things that I make. It feels like a song you'd hear in a hotel, the Ritz-Carlton. You just walk in, you know, there's just some people that you know are like trying to get upgraded to the suite, and you walk in and you just hear a little like, like they're not going to get upgraded, but you might. I feel like that's what makes an artist an artist. It's like what is the feeling that you are conveying through the progression of the music you're making?